But that's something we got to check out.
Absolutely. You're talking about Americans going to fight in other countries. I'm on with the guest of the evening, Mr. Tyrone T-Money Glover, and he has just signed with Canada's own MFC. Tyrone, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great, guys. How's everything going with you?
Good.
Good. We're just talking some MMA here, the UFC 125. Did you get to catch it?
Oh, of course. That was an amazing UFC, man. Some really good fights, especially the guys in my weight class, the 155ers, had a real good showing.
And who impressed you the most out of that card?
Oh my gosh, Frankie Edgar. Geez, the guy's like just about halfway knocked out, stumbling around the ring. I mean, if it wasn't a championship fight, I could see situations where they would have stopped that, and a lot of us would have been okay with it. But, he's a champ. They let it go. He recovered and not only fought the rest of the fight, but, came out and won, arguably, those other 4 rounds. I can't fault the judge that had it at a draw. But, I saw it as either a draw or a win for Edgar.
Man. Yeah, we're all right there with you in amazement. It was some great stuff. And, coming from a fighter, you're ready to go. NFC, after, it seems like, 4, 5, 6 year absence, you're returning to the cage. Why? Why are you just now returning to the cage after you won 4 straight victories? You were looking good, and then you stopped things, and now you're back just like you never left.
Well, I'm a big fan of living in the present. And, when I was fighting 4 or 5 years ago, I took a look at the landscape in MMA and, what was going on there and the aspirations I had to go back and finish up my law degree and start my law practice. And I just felt the timing made more sense to go ahead and get my education. And it seems like it's been a perfect storm ever since. I work for a firm now that's very understanding about my MMA training. Grudge Training Center popped up in my backyard like while I was in law school. So all these just amazing things that were directing me back to MMA sort of happened. The landscape, I think, for MMA athletes has gotten a lot better in the last 5 years. There's more opportunities. There's more fan awareness. So, it just makes sense to get back in there now for me. And luckily, I've kept up with my training. I kept my body in good condition. And, I'm not going to say it was an easy transition back. It was definitely a tough camp. But, I feel like the old T-Money.
Oh, man. And you talk about the camp that just popped up in your backyard. And it's not just any camp there. The Grudge Fightwear associated, of course, with the Jackson camp. Talk about when you walk into that gym with all the big names, that are, training there. What's the atmosphere like in Grudge?
It's an amazing team atmosphere. I've been to certain camps where if like the head guy wasn't there, people wouldn't be working out as hard and people would be doing their own thing. This is a camp where like the way that we sort of have it structured is the lighter guys work out after the heavier guys, and I'll show up early to watch. Nate Marquardt and Brendan Schwab and Elliot Marshall and Sean Sims, all these guys spar, just because I'm just amazed at how professional they are and how they carry themselves. And I'll watch these guys spar, and then when I'm getting ready to spar and we're getting ready, these guys don't just get out of the gym. They literally will stick around for the light guys an hour, and while they're doing their cool down, they're helping us out too. So, you have these guys who are big-name athletes in the sport that are still giving back, and it's just a really great team atmosphere. You learn just as much from your teammates at Grudge as you do from, the people who are named as the head coaches there. So, it's just great, and I feel like everyone wants to see everyone successful. Everyone wants to see everyone show up healthy to their fights. We've got guys fighting here in a few weeks on a card out here. There's another card that's running simultaneously with the first MFC, which I hope I'm on. So it's just going to be a great atmosphere with everyone training and everyone helping each other.
Absolutely. And, talk a little about, you've got a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and then you're training under Trevor Wittman, who's known for the striking. So how does that work out for you? I'm not going to say striking is a weakness, but with the ground game being your strength, how's it working out in the Grudge in that aspect?
I mean, it's perfect. And the one thing that I really like working with T and all the striking coaches there at Grudge, they're real big on footwork and that aspect of the game. So it's just been really amazing because that's where it all comes together. You can look at your footwork with wrestling, you can look at your footwork with boxing. And when you're on the ground, I think one of my biggest things that I preach to my students is it's not necessarily the moves it's how you move, it's the movement. And so, if you really look at MMA, I think that the entirety of the movement, and that's where you really see the sort of cohesive product that is a mixed martial artist. If you look at striking, wrestling, and grappling separately, they look very much separate. But if you just look at how, the guys who are really successful move and how they're moving when they're wrestling, when they're boxing, and when they're actually grappling, it's all this very sort of seamless flow. And working with a camp that's so good about footwork, so good about being in good position to throw those strikes and get those knockouts, it's just really given me a deep understanding of the game that I don't want to say I necessarily had before. Matt Hume and my other coaches were excellent. I maybe wasn't at the maturity level yet to really grasp it, but, it's just really hitting home these days.
Absolutely. And with that great training camp, you've already fought once. You're ready to, you said, look to get back into the cage. Why MFC out of any other organization in the world?
Well, it's one of those things where, I'm really big on when everything is coming together and everything seems right, and that opportunity that pops up, it just makes sense. Rather than, where we're taught so much in law and through my legal profession to really be extremely critical of things. But one thing that I believe you can't always necessarily be critical of is just perfect timing. And with my reemergence in MMA, coming back there, having this good win, coming out without injury, having this awesome training camp behind me, and having Mark Pavlich come out in resounding support of me coming out to Canada and rebuilding my career, at the MFC and becoming a part of the MFC family, that's been just, I couldn't deny those coincidences and just how sort of poetic it all was. And, from the second I talked to Mark and the guys over at MFC, I knew that, that was going to be my home.
All right, fair enough. Now, with all this intense training and everything, I got to imagine you might get some cuts, some scrapes, some bruises. How does that work out when you go to the law firm the next morning? And you might not be looking 100%. I mean, do you deal with clients on a daily basis? Are you a trial lawyer? How does that work in the real world?
Well, number one, you can't go out there and be a knucklehead when you're training, especially when you're sparring. You have to have your full protection on, your mouth guard. I always spar with a head, with headgear, because you never know when you're going to catch a headbutt or if someone's knee pad's going to slide down. You make sure you have the adequate Vaseline. But even with that, you still get those cuts and scrapes and bruises. And I have a little bit of a regimen that I sort of go through to minimize those cuts and scrapes and some of the redness and stuff like that. There's certain things, like if you get a really bad black eye or a broken nose, one of my clients is going to see it, and I'm going to have to explain it. But for the most part, I've been pretty good up to this point. I mean, if you look at wrestlers, man, they're always, getting some kind of something. And, I got my cauliflower ears to show for all my years of wrestling and grappling. And, when you're sparring, I really think it's no different. If you're out there, if your training partners aren't trying to take your head off every single day, but if they're giving you good hard work, you can avoid a lot of those really sort of cosmetic type injuries. So I've done pretty good up to this point. I think some of it's definitely a little bit of luck that I haven't come away with a really bad black eye that's going to last a little while. But for the most part, I know how to take care of the cuts and bruises and that sort of stuff, and until they're no longer noticeable.
Have you ever had to explain to any of your clients why you may have a black eye or a cut or something?
Yeah, and one of the things, bless my boss's heart, he's so proud of all my MMA stuff. Before I even sit down with the client, a lot of times they already know what I do. So if I come in with a little bit of blackness under the eye, they're kind of like, oh yeah, your boss was telling us about all the MMA and martial arts stuff you do. So a lot of times I don't even have to do the explaining because it's already been done up front for me. But I usually just tell people and I let them know, I'm a martial artist and I compete in a form where people from all different martial arts backgrounds can come together and compete with each other. And sometimes that means that you're going to take some lumps. And, I do it because I love to do it. But, they usually understand. And the quality of my counsel usually shines more so than my shiner. For throwing a really bad pun out there.
Nice.
What about the judges?
The judges?
Well,
yeah,
what do they think?
Luckily, I do mostly transactional law. And the few judges that I do appear in front of are actually some of my biggest supporters. So, they know what's up. And I've actually argued a few cases, in law school in front of judges who had little cauliflower ears. And, we've had some side benches where they want to know sort of what I do and what they've done. But I would like to think if I showed up with a little something, maybe I might win a few more objections. And I look a little tougher there.
Well, it seems like you go from serious to more serious. What do you do to relax?
What do I do to relax?
Yeah.
I live in just such a beautiful state. I live in out here in Colorado. We have the mountains. Usually after I finish up with my workouts for the day, I'll jump in my car and head up to the mountain, sit in a hot tub overlooking the Rockies, and then spend, a few hours the next day with what I like to call active recovery, which is my, my term for snowboarding, which is what I like to call it to my strength conditioning coach, because he really is big on my rest day, but I like to actively recover on my rest day. So I definitely, I get up in the mountains and play around, snowboard, mountain bike, and just kind of try to stay active and just, live as much of life as I can day to day, challenge myself intellectually, physically, but then also get out there and really get at it recreation-wise.
All right, yeah. Well, as we, get ready to let you go to get into that resting or relaxing or training, or wherever you're headed there, looking ahead, are there any guys that you aspire to get in the cage with up in the MFC?
You know what? That was what's kind of great about the MFC. I didn't necessarily, right off the bat, have my eye on someone. So what's going to happen, I think, is I'm going to get over there. I'm at my first few fights, and some rivalries or whatnot will get to develop organically. So you'll really get to see these rivalries start from their most embryonic phase. I'm not going in there right now gunning for anyone in particular, but I know once I'm over there and once I've seen some guys fight and once they've seen me fight, and it's obvious who the top guys in the 155 division are, things might get a little interesting. There might be some off-camera fireworks and a nice little rivalry start to build. So I'm looking forward to having some good competition up there. I'm looking forward to fighting some good, solid guys. But, as of now, no, there's not really anyone I have my eye on in particular. I mean, I have my eye on the belt, of course. So, whoever is holding at the time that the fans want to see me fight for it, that's what I'm going to be gunning for.
I'd like to see you against Acevedo.
Acevedo, he fought McKee, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be awesome, man. I haven't really, Dina was an amazing, he's a black belt, but to fight my understanding he's a really accomplished black belt from Brazil. I haven't had to have one of those matchups yet. So that would be nice. You know, I've competed in jiu-jitsu for the last 16 years, you know, so to step up and have an MMA match with someone of his caliber, I think would just be an awesome show for the fans, too.
And you are a highly decorated grappler there. You know, when you've been doing it for a long time, I've heard with a lot of guys who've been doing one thing for a long time, they like to showcase something else when they get in the cage. What do you prefer? Do you prefer the ground game, or do you prefer to stand up and bang?
You know, I like to get in there, get the job done, and go to the after party. So, you know, I'm the guy that's looking to finish. So whether that's finishing with a punch, finishing with a submission, finishing with a ground and pound, I'm looking for that finish. So, I mean, I don't necessarily have a preference. You know, the analogy I like to use, and the analogy my training partners at Grudge like to use is like, look, we're going to train you up, and then we're going to, you know, you're going to be the bullet, and we're going to be the ones holding the gun, and we're going to aim, and we're going to pull the trigger, and we're going to tell you how we think you should be ending this fight. But, you know, I go into fights. I don't like to go to decision. So whether I'm knocking someone out, grounding and pounding them out, or, you know, getting that sub, you know, that's, you know, I just want to finish and get to the good stuff.
That's what fight fans like to hear. T-Money, we definitely appreciate you for taking the time to hang out with us for a bit, and we look forward to watching you on HDNet up in the MFC.
Yeah, no, I look forward to it.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon, I hope.
All right, talk to you soon.